Like he's here at IETF. Can we get a second note taker too, maybe?
Sure. Minutes away. Welcome everybody, and thank you very much for attending World 2 of RTC Web here in Yokohama, Japan. We have one note taker, thank you very much, Bo. We have a Jabber scribe, Joe Hall. We could use another secondary backup note taker in case Bo needs to walk to the restroom or needs to get up and speak at the microphone. So is there anybody in the room who would like to volunteer, for example, Jean-Marc Palin, to be a secondary note taker? Anyone? Martin's like, he's not even, oh yes, he is in the room. I'm going to ask Patrick, you just arrived and look chipper. Would you mind being our secondary note taker? Patrick is happy to. Thank you very much. All right.
So cool. The IETF note well. If you've been here all week, you'll have seen this a lot. Note it well. This is our agenda of day one, which we already did, and it's the agenda for day two. I guess we're gonna do a little bash here at the beginning, which is some administrivia stuff. We're gonna do some administrivia stuff. Magnus has pointed out to us that the audio draft timed out, and it actually was supposed to go out to working group last call. So we're in the process of requesting the author to spin a new version, so it's not expired, and then we're going to working group last call it and get it to Alyssa. The audio interop draft is basically in a stable state, and we're also going to working group last call that. So Alyssa should be expecting to see those two drafts hopefully in like the next 2 to 3 weeks.
No, Jason's not.
Justin, go ahead. Do we need to continue our conversation from Monday about the final home for the text about the IP handling?
Actually, that's just what we were talking about at the front of the room.
And we think it'd be excellent to discuss that.
Yes, it would be nice to get that nailed down. Do you have slides on it, or we don't have slides from you on it? That was the...
No, well, to be honest, it's just where documents to go into. So I wasn't sure we actually needed to discuss it anymore. We already discussed the actual problem in detail on Monday.
Right. So I guess at this point, though, there was a document written about the problem.
Right.
Right. And so there's a question of whether we need to progress that document, or
yes,
whether the output of the discussion goes into other documents and that document does not need to progress.
That's exactly the question I'm trying to answer, yes.
Right. And so I don't think we asked the working group that question or our AD that question, he said, looking at her plaintively. There's a couple of people at the line. Let's take them while our AD considers the question.
Okay, well.
For our AD, do we need, in order to take on board the
the result of the discussion around IP handling is the right approach simply to put that into the drafts. Remember, what's happening at this point is option 1 and get experimental results on the implementation of option 1, or do we need to progress the draft in which that's described? And which way is the best way forward? Why don't we take the caller at the microphone, and then we'll come back to you for your thoughts on that.
Okay, am I the 97th caller? No.
No, I'm sorry.
You have
did
won a
not
free
win.
Let's Encrypt certificate.
The other thing I wanted to mention is progressing the FEC draft. I published a new version of the FEC document. There's really not a whole lot of updates in there that really need to be discussed other than just responding to comments that I received on the list. At this point in time, I consider it to be almost complete. There's one more to do to deal with, but I'd like to get another set of reviews so that we can advance this to last call.
We are certainly happy to solicit reviews. Do you want just a working group review, or shall we start giving it out to other parts of the?
Well, I like the complete working group review, but with the expectation that that would then sort of move to last call. And
Okay, so working group, consider yourself solicited right now. I believe this is an actionable offense in many countries, but I'm going to solicit you anyway. Please review this draft.
Can we get a name or two of maybe somebody who would?
Oh, Magnus is going to type up. He's already got. Great. Anybody else going to join Magnus? Really, he's a fun guy. He drinks a good beer. Yeah, this is the FEC draft. This is not War and Peace. So anybody else want to raise their hand? Okay, Mo has raised his hand. Okay.
Chris, I'd just like to inform the community that there is no draft in eMusic which defines how you can indicate that you can only do RTP, RTCP MUX based on that decision on earlier this week. So please go and have a look at that draft and indicate whether you like it or not.
Okay, but the discussion of that draft will continue in eMusic as is always. And now, having made her decision, the area director steps to the microphone and says,
Alyssa Cooper, going to pretend like this is like the most momentous decision this group has made. So my advice would be to keep the IP stuff in a separate draft, because JSEP will finish one day, and
really, she means it's going to move to Helsinki.
and then there will be experimentation, and this piece may change, right? Like that's the whole point of putting it, just documenting it and then running some experiments, right? So, so you don't want to have to update the whole document after that happens, I would say. So I would say keep it separate.
Okay, so we will keep it separate. It will not progress immediately because it will await the result of the experiment before progressing. Is that the advice we're being given?
Yeah, that's probably fair. That we'll get this data. The main concern was like not that it go into the JSEP spec, but that would end up going into the security documents, which already have a brief, probably too brief, discussion of the actual problem. And probably those documents either need to be expanded to reference this document, or the other outcome possibly being that this document gets subsumed into the security documents.
Well, what a good
sort of
segue
assuming-
that is, because a major topic of today's discussion is our security drafts and the reviews which have been reviewed. How nicely done. Thank you.
And just, I think the assumption was if it was a separate document, it would clearly be referenced by those, right?
Yeah, I mean, the dependency graph of the RTC web documents will not suffer greatly from one more reference.
You mean, given that the worm is already eating its own tail, drawing feet on the worm isn't going to hurt us much?
Well said, Ted.
So while we're continuing our agenda bash, our next, the simulcast summary is not going to be 30 minutes. We're just going to get the sort of, 2-minute version of it. Are we at that point in the agenda? I think. Mo, you want to give us where we are on this?
Yeah, so Mo Zanatti, we had some decisions made in the eMusic session. They're not fully reflected in the latest 03 version of the simulcast draft yet, but within the next couple of weeks, we'll get all those decisions put in there. Basically, the main change is that there's a new draft called InMusic RID, the bottom one. That's not going to become mandatory for simulcast. And so simulcast layers are going to be identified by this new RID. It's an RTP stream identifier. And the older payload type based identifiers are going away from simulcast. So it's very clear, very simple. There's only one thing to implement. RIDs are mandatory. It's the only way to negotiate simulcast. And we'll get all those updates in probably within the next few weeks. And I don't believe there's any remaining large open issues. There's a few loose ends about syntax that we'll clear up, and we'll get more things from the SDP directorate once it actually goes out for review. But I think it's mostly loose ends now.
Peter Thatcher. So we do need to define in GSEP the actual SDP that's going to be used from there within RTCWEB. So what's the plan for proposing and reaching consensus on that?
Yeah, so I'd like maybe get some JSEP authors to agree to get some text in there. So the InMusic SDP definitions are fairly done, but we need to get the RTCWEB recommendations about how those should appear in JSEP.
So Mo, would you be willing to write up just like a message to the list, basically my cookie, outlining like, you know, how this would actually work, and then we can fill in the details?
Well, we had some discussion previously, and I posted some example SDP that I thought would make sense as an offer and as an answer. But even once we post that to the list, then what happens after that? Or what time frame are we expecting to finish that?
Oh, then the JSEP fairy comes in and takes that email message and turns it into normative text in the document. So.
All right.
So one part on the IP handling document, do we need to then make a motion to move this forward as a working group draft?
Based on advice from our area director, I believe that is the correct course of action.
I so move. By fiat it is, okay.
We can certainly take a hum. If you believe you understand the discussion to date, please hum now. If you object to adopting this document as advised by our area director, please hum now. If you support our area director in her assertion that we need to adopt this document, please hum now. I believe that we have met the formal requirement. Of course, it will be confirmed on the list.
Okay, so I did recently upload these slides about like an hour ago, so you probably need to refresh. And I sent them to the authors of the drafts probably about 30 minutes ago. So I did actually get a quick review. This is probably going to be a little bumpy. Please bear with us. We do need to go through these drafts. So the status basically is the drafts, we went through working group last call, and they're kind of chilling out in the waiting for working group chair go ahead. But we found some stuff that we kind of missed, so we pulled it back. I think Bernardo Bova caught some things. At IETF 92, there was there was a presentation that Martin did, I guess, to include, or maybe Eric did it, to do some things. For the hash algorithm to be used for the M fingerprint was to change to use SHA-256, and there was some SDES stuff that was still kind of lingering in the draft, and there were some WTF cipher suites that were listed in there, and basically we agreed the last time to nuke them. None of that got done, so that's still on tap. Then I actually went through the GitHub repo. There's one PR in there, which is basically to swap out RSA as the signature algorithm to switch to ECDSA. The question at the time was, what is TLS working group going to do? Because that's like not a mandatory implement algorithm. But TLS is in the process of moving all of the EC supported cipher suites to standard track. And like for TLS 1.3, ECDSA is actually one of the required ones. And there is actually kind of more widespread support of ECDSA as things are progressing, and as other CAs start to issue ECDSA certs, there'll that are free, there'll be more of them.
Also, both Chrome and Firefox definitely, and Chrome, I believe soon, if not already, generates ECDSA by default. No, us now, them soon.
So I think the question was, do we think we need to do a consensus call to adopt this change for the PR? I think just to be clear, it probably would make sense if we did do so, to kind of knock it out. Of course, again, we're running this by my working group chairs as well. So I guess I would like to, if you understand the question at hand about the PR for adopting ECDSA instead of RSA, please hum now.
As MTI is the relevant point.
Yeah, this is going to be the MTI, but this is just to make sure you understand the question. So if you understand what we're talking about, changing the mandatory to implement algorithm from RSA to ECDSA, please hum now. Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Do you want to say
Surely we have to say it impact the consensus call.
No, I have nothing that would impact that. That's fine. Consensus call.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that people were following along because sometimes I can go kind of quickly. So, so I'm going to ask two questions. The first is, do you want to make the change from RSA to ECDSA? And the second one is if you want to leave it the same.
I should run to the, as an individual, have we considered having both be MTI?
Yes.
Is that an option or?
I think we have. I'm happy to entertain that notion.
I'd be fine with that too. I think it's important that we require ECDSA because we want to be able to generate ECDSA asserts because it's much faster. Since everybody's going to support RSA, I'd be fine if RSA. That's a no up, but I'd be fine with having it there.
Yeah. So I'd like to understand if anyone actually has any objection to the plan before we move.
Yeah. Fair enough. This is the point for discussion.
Whenever
we
that
ask,
sort of thing.
Where we say we're going to hum on questions, then people ask where the comma is. In the
because
sentence.
if there's no one who has any objections, then we're done, right?
Fair enough.
Hi, Strong. Just backwards compatibility worried as always. The implementations that conform to the new spec will not necessarily interoperate with implementations that conform to the old spec. In fact, the old spec's mandatory to implement is not mentioned even as a should or may in the new spec. Is that okay? If it's okay.
So in terms of interop, there are two questions: which algorithms you are going to generate and verify, and which algorithms you actually generate by default. So what we validated is that pretty much everybody will accept ECDSA if you generate it and give it to them. And so it seems to be relatively okay to switch the defaults. I suppose if you were concerned that people were going to, stop supporting RSA, then you might have an interop problem. Okay.
So Martin Thompson, we actually went ahead and just did this, and we did discover a few problems. The first one was that the very old versions of the webrtc.org code failed to make one small call into OpenSSL that enabled the use of ECDH, which the ephemeral key exchange stuff, which doesn't relate to this that much, but it did affect the cipher suite selection.
Yes.
And we have had reports from one of our partners, one report of the ECDSA certs actually causing a peer to crash. But there is a workaround. We implemented the certificate management API, and they're perfectly happy to go ahead and use that to sort of work around the problem. So we have a backward compatibility story.
Thank you. My concerns are addressed.
To be clear, if it makes people feel like even, any substantial number of people feel even fractionally warmer about this to require both, I'm more than happy to require both because it's like, I don't think it has any impact on anybody, but I also don't care really.
Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing is that you need to be able to support, in order to be considered to be old enough to ride the WebRTC ride, you need to support receiving ECDSA from a browser. Like that's the critical thing. And then must implement ECDSA so somebody can choose it if they want it. which I assume most people want it by default, it seems like the other only salient piece.
So, Colin James, floor. I'm going to certainly agree, support making this mandatory to implement, but on removing the old stuff as mandatory, I just don't know how much equipment that impacts. I don't think we really looked at that. I mean, I know you guys said you looked at it, but what'd you actually look at?
But when you say, what you mean to say is how much equipment would it impact if endpoints actually removed RSA as opposed to we're making it non-mandatory, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so again, I wouldn't be shocked if there were people only support old implementation only support RSA. And I suspect that if every browser took out RSA, someone would have didn't give you any way to use it, someone would have a bad day. And so, so if you think that taking out RSA as MTI will cause people to take out RSA in the implementation, then we should make RSA MTI. I don't think that's going to happen, which is why I'm not worked up about it either way. I mean,
I'm a little bit.
Again,
I'm slightly worried about that. Actually,
sure. Well, yeah. I'm more than happy to, as I say, I'm more than happy to have RSA be MTI. I don't feel strongly about it anyway.
Okay. So my preference would be not to leave RSA as MTI if that doesn't cause any harm, because it makes this a much easier decision to analyze. I don't have to analyze anything. I know it works, right?
I'm happy. Nobody seems to object to that plan, really.
So basically leave as is.
Add ECDSA.
Add ECDSA.
And leave RSA.
And leave RSA. So is there anyone in violent objection to that? Please get to the microphone and/or speak up in the Jabber room if you're listening to me. All right, let's just call that one done.
Okay. I'll update that PR version. Next slide, I guess. I don't know if I'll need slides.
So reviews. So we
to do what? I thought you could enable it with the cert management API.
That was just for Echo Line. Don't worry about it.
That's internal Mozilla stuff. So one of the other steps that we have to jump through is to get directorate reviews. So we went ahead and got 2 early directorate reviews. We got we sent a request for an App Store review and a sector review. The App Store review, there's a link there to one message that includes both. I would characterize those comments as please make it easier to read and understand. I'm not quite sure how we're going to deal with those. Alyssa, this is kind of aimed at you, right? A lot of it's on the mailing list. We'll try to figure out what we're going to do to make it easier to read and more understandable and work through some of them, but they're like, I don't think we're going to rewrite both of those documents.
Alyssa Cooper, that sounds like the right approach. I mean, those reviews are not mandatory. They are helpful for you to find out what people think of the document before it goes to IETF last call.
Right.
But yeah, take on board what you can and leave the rest.
All right, fair enough. We also the sector reviews are a little bit more challenging in that often they turn into discusses. So basically, we got one review of the security architecture draft from Tobias Gunstrom. The other one is done by DKG. He got the other draft. The interesting thing is that we actually deal a lot with DKG in TLS, and he and Ecker spent like 3 hours today working on stuff. So I think that as things progress, we're gonna be able to get informed comments on the other draft as well. So basically what we're gonna do now is try to go through the comments that we got from Tobias on the architecture draft. There's like 10 more slides or something, and it's like, we're trying to get a sense of the room of how we should try to address them. I don't know if it's an effective use of our time, but we have to do this.
Yeah, I think that's fine, but it should probably, end after today. And
it has to end up in an email.
These documents are going to have discusses on them.
Oh no, I guarantee they're going to have discusses.
So you can do as much as you can, but there's going to be more work to do in the future, I think. So just use your time wisely.
Right. All right, so this is the first one he marked as a discuss, which probably means it's fodder for a discuss. The column on the left is a statement that's in section 4.1 about initial signaling, and then his comment is on the right. I did forward these finally to the email, to the list, so you can take them, but maybe take a couple minutes to look at this. I know Martin has already thought about this a little bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, the second point number 2 is just wrong. So, the only thing that you can do with point number 2, I mean, I'm not sure it means I flood other people with call requests, right? But the system is specifically designed so you don't get a lot of data from people when you didn't agree to send it. And so, I mean, it's just incorrect.
Okay, fair enough.
The point number 1 is basically exactly the point we spent, 45 minutes on earlier about IP address privacy.
Yeah, I mean, this text is talking about running the constructor of the peer connection. That's all.
My meeting just got a lot better.
Those G&Ts, man. Right. I mean, so it used to be